Hey folks, so today we're looking at coastal management, and we're particularly looking at soft engineering and hard engineering. So on this side, if you can put hard engineering, and then on the other side of your page, if you put soft engineering. Okay, so coastal management is broken into two types. One is expensive, one is less expensive. One lasts longer, one lasts less long. But visually, aesthetically, the soft engineering methods always win at the beach, especially if it's an area which depends on tourists. So this is an AO3 question. Okay, you could get, and it would ask you to sort of justify or perhaps evaluate which is best. Okay, and you'll have to look at things like cost, so literally how much they cost per square metre. You would be expected to know, how much maintenance, in simple terms, each require, and how long lasting all the different techniques are. Okay, so if you are prepared for those, be prepared for anything. Okay, so if we start with our hard engineering options, okay, so if we just run through the kind of ones that you might get. The first one, I'm going to draw some sort of angular rocks here. If you think down at Prinstead, so quite close to the school, there's big grey, very, very hard rocks down at Prinstead. That's called rock armour. Okay, rock armour. Sometimes referred to as riprap. These are huge, very, very heavy rocks that are often imported from places like Norway, brought over by boat and then deposited on our shores. They make excellent sea defences. They're robust, they last a really long time, and they are very effective, but they cost quite a lot of money. So quite high cost, but also they last a long time. And they don't require any maintenance. Okay, so really they are a very good option. But some people say that they don't look so nice. So you always have that potentially from people. Next up, and you should know this from your field work that we did, is groins. Okay, sorry, not the best drawing, but they stick out sort of perpendicular to the sea, and their main function, if you think back to that video that we did on longshore drift and how splitters form, but their main job is to actually catch sediment and to reduce the process of longshore drift. Don't ever get caught up thinking that they can somehow stop longshore drift. They can't. If you imagine, this is the sea, so just draw some waves in, and we've got longshore drift happening in this direction. Okay, what it wants to do is take all this material this way, but what these groins are doing really quite effectively is stopping that happening, and they are catching the sediment as it moves along the beach. Now without these groins, you wouldn't have a great deal of beach. The beach wouldn't be what we call sort of a healthy beach. It wouldn't have a lot of sediment. Now a really good storm can devastate a beach. Groins are not fully effective, but they are a good option. And they're not the most expensive option, so their cost is not too bad, sort of less expensive than, say, the rock armour. So I'll just put okay. But they don't last a really long time. Okay, so we might get sort of 50 to 70 years at best out of them. And do they need maintenance? Yes. Of quite high maintenance costs. Maintenance costs. But they're visually not too bad, and that's why we've seen them, they've been quite effective on lots and lots of beaches around the UK. Right, the third one, it's sort of 2 for 1 really, is our good old-fashioned Seawall. Now the first one I'm going to show you, it's quite clever actually. It's one of these down at Hayling. I don't know if you've had a look down there by In on the Beach. When the waves are attacking, I've got some tsunami looking waves here, I'm not quite sure why, attacking the seawall, sort of heading in this direction, and this is wave energy. The seawall acts as a barrier, got the land behind it. It stops those waves, let's imagine those destructive waves, the ones that have the most sort of strongest backwash, so taking material away. It actually acts as a barrier and it protects the land. Now if it's curved, the seawall, what happens to the wave energy is that as it hits this seawall, it actually gets refracted and hits the waves coming in. So the wave energy is refracted. It's essentially using the waves against itself. Okay, so that is what we call a curved seawall, and they're really effective, really effective. In terms of how long they last, it's up to 100 years, which again sounds like a lot, but their cost is phenomenal. I need a really big arrow for this one. It's millions and millions for these. Impossible to say how much without knowing how big a space you are looking at, but they are really significant when it comes to cost. Do they need maintenance? Not so much. So I guess that's sort of one good thing. And visually, not super good looking things to have on the beach, but I think their effectiveness far outweighs that. And the other way that you can have a seawall, I'll just pop it over here, is you can have a flat one, but the best are either curved or like a flight of steps, a stepped seawall. So imagine this is the land behind it, and then as the waves hit the seawall, the energy goes into the gaps, into the different steps, and it's, let's put an arrow there, dissipated. Okay, and that word just means it's broken up. It's lost in the steps. Okay. Wave energy dissipated. Okay, what the sea would like, if it had a brain and could think about it, would be a nice flat area to have something like hydraulic action, which is, we know, our strongest type of erosion. Just the force of the water slamming into the seawall, trying to create cracks and gaps and things to widen up. So when it's faced with this sort of stepped seawall, or as we said, a curved seawall, that impacts the amount of wave energy that's actually used. So it's a really good one. It's very similar in terms of cost and how long it lasts, and maintenance wise to the other seawall. Okay. I mean, it's not as simple. I always get asked this, why can't we just cover everywhere in seawalls? They are too expensive, and also they're not suitable everywhere. If you've got people, who need to get down to the beach or a tourist site, this is not as nice as a sandy beach. And also it's quite impractical when trying to scale one of these, walk up and down them or reach the beach. It's not easy, so it's not good for accessibility either. Okay, let's go over to our soft engineering options now. And when we're thinking about these, we can be thinking particularly about sort of West Wittering, West Witt or Hayling. So try and think nice and local. Okay, Soft engineering is broken into the 3 R's. You've got beach recycling, beach replenishment, and beach reprofiling. We'll start with beach recycling. I'm not talking about taking your plastic to the recycling. So, number 1, beach recycling. This is moving something from A to B. That old saying, have you just moved that from A to B? Well, yes. And that something is sediment. If you've ever been down to Hayling in the winter, you will see trucks. I'm not very good at drawing trucks. Oh, wasn't actually going to do this. There we go, I'll draw the truck. Big sort of tipper trucks, you know, the ones where they can go up and then the goods swing out. I'll try and draw it over here. There we are. So that's hydraulic lift, isn't it? And what happens is diggers put the sediment, the beach material, the stones, the shingle, the sand into the truck. They drive it along the beach, maybe a mile, half a mile, and then all that sediment comes out. And then they drive back and they do the exact same thing. Okay, I'm not going to draw a digger because I'm really not good at diggers. But basically, they're moving the sediment to another part of the beach. Why would they do that? Remember longshore drift? Come back to it over here. Moving the sediment from this isn't southwest, but in the UK it's from the southwest. All they're doing is moving it back again. Okay, so it's literally using the material that's perhaps moved over there over the season and bringing it back. It's quite effective. It's quite low cost. Problem with this one, as is the same with all of soft engineering, is that it just doesn't stand up to the storms. The storms have an overpowering effect and can undo all of this hard work. But it is low cost. And the other thing is, I'm just going to draw a pair of glasses. And a smiley face. It looks good. People don't even know it's happened half the time. So we like that one. Right, the second one is what we call beach reprofiling. Right, the key word here is profile. Okay, I'm not talking about a profile picture, but I'm talking about the look of the beach. So, if we imagine this is the beach, and then this is the sea. Yeah. Okay. And this is before. So we've got a sloping beach. We've got somebody in a deck chair, just relaxing. Nice and easy to get into the water. No hard walking, no climbing involved. Well, after that, this is the shape of the beach. So if they want to sit in their deck chair, which obviously they can, it's going to be a bit harder though, because we've got the sea down here. Yeah, maybe I did that a little bit high. But the beach has been pushed up. We've increased the height of the beach. And that is simply because when the storms come in, the beach is higher, material gets washed away easier. This beach is vulnerable. This beach is less vulnerable. And again, the cost is quite low. All it takes is a digger just pushing the sand up the beach. I've seen it done. It doesn't even take very long. And again, you know, it looks good. We like the look of this one. Again, people might notice it's happened, but then again, they might not. Okay, and often it settles itself down by the season. Now, the third R is beach replenishment. And just as we would use the word replenish, you know, replenish your drink, replenish your food, we're thinking about adding something. Now, let me see if I can draw this adequately. So this is supposed to be one of those tankers that you get out at sea. One of those really big ships. Okay, I'm just going to draw the sea in there. And then what happens is they have this huge pump that feeds out of the tanker and onto the beach. And it basically shoots out sand and shingle. Actually, it's sort of more direct. It's more like a fireman's hose or something. And it fires material that has been taken from the seabed, okay, which is obviously sand and shingle. So it collects that and then sprays it back onto the beach, therefore replenishing what is there. So we'll just put that: sprays sediment direct onto, or directly onto beach. Right, it's great because it's using that natural material, so nobody is sort of having to see a seawall or things like that. It's nice and natural. It's using what the beach is already made of. The cost is a bit higher, but it's still lower than any of our hard engineering methods, and it happens very quickly and it looks good, so we're happy with that one. And there's just one more which I'm going to try and squeeze into this gap. This one is technically a soft engineering method, but I sort of feel like it sits a little bit in the middle at times, and this is what's called managed retreat. Now, I'm not talking about the sea eating up the land here in a big storm that we weren't expecting. This is the key word: managed retreat. Not a storm that's just eating away at sea defences and breaches and gets onto farmers' fields or people's homes. This is a natural sort of managed event that the Environment Agency have put in place. Now, the case study for this one is Medmerry, which is a nature reserve near Chichester. So we've got a before and after again. Just draw a line down the middle. Before and after. So with our before, we've got the sea over here, and the sea moves in and out, doesn't it, with the tide, yeah? And what was here was an old seawall, or possibly an earth bund it's called, which is a big raised line of land. Might have grass on it and things, but often it's an old seawall, so it might have some cracks in it, might be starting to break. And then let's just say fields behind that. So what happens is the sea is meeting the old sea defences, which aren't terribly effective. Now afterwards, we've still got the sea, okay, over here, and it's going in and out, okay. The old seawall was demolished. It's no longer there. They've broken it down. So we've got our fields, but they're not actually fields anymore because the sea has come further in. And what they've done instead is put a new sea defence in. So a new seawall. Sometimes it might be that earth bund we talked about. And we've still got the fields over here. But these fields, the ones that the farmer used to work on, which remember were sort of a bit closer, they've gone. The sea has been allowed to breach that old seawall and actually break it down. And here's our new seawall. But because the sea is not coming quite that far in, we've now got some salt marsh developing. Remember, we've got like birds who love the salt marsh. That looks like a spaceship, doesn't it? Let's try that again. Okay. Yeah, lots of birds and salt marsh. Salt marsh. So salt marsh forms in the sort of gap, the no man's land really, between the new seawall and the original line of the sea. And that's good. So it creates a habitat that wasn't there before for wild birds. And that can bring tourists in, it can bring, you know, bird watchers in, that kind of thing. But also, salt marsh acts as a sponge. So it's directly soaking up any flood events, any flood waters, and delaying any kind of damage to this new seawall, you know, for many years to come. The best bit of this, well, cost is low. Even though we've got that new seawall defence, it's less than trying to repair this older one and maintain this older one. Looks great because we've got this wonderful new salt marsh, you know, so the sea is this intertidal zone here. It's giving life to lots of waders and things like that, and it's increased that habitat for wild birds. So managed retreat, just as they've done in Medmerry, is a great option, and that's why it's not totally soft engineering, because it has got that new seawall and a bit of hard engineering in there, but it's also, I think, creating that natural habitat. So it's sort of a bit of both. So hopefully that helps you with your different types of soft and hard engineering.